Hello again. First of all, thank you for the response to my first video. I'm glad people liked it. I don't know if all my videos will be baking, but most of them probably will be. Basically, if I feel like making a video about something, I will. Also, thank you to everyone who suggested things. I'll probably get around to all of them at some point, but today I want to focus on a cake. The cake in question is popcorn cake. It's from this cookbook called All About Cake by Christina Tosi. Basically, Christina Tosi is famous for this bakery in America called Milk Bar that makes really unusual desserts, like things with cereal milk and these elaborate layer cakes and cornflake marshmallow cookies. Also, an invaluable resource in making this was the video by Anti-Chef. Go follow Jamie, he's really good, he's made a lot of Milk Bar cakes. This project ended up spreading across 3 days, not because the cake takes that long, but because I took that long. But let's start with Saturday. It's Saturday morning. I got up kind of early because this is a very long recipe, or should I say recipes, because there are multiple of them and I'm going to be here probably all day. This is the goal today. You can kind of see there's a list of all the recipes that this recipe involves. This is probably the most high effort cake I have done so far, second only to another cake from this book, which was the birthday cake, which was good. Most of these recipes involve corn powder, which is a whole thing I'll talk about in a minute. Lots of sheet gelatin, which I'm really bad at, love that for me. Light corn syrup, which I cannot find anywhere in Ireland, so I'm just gonna use golden syrup. It's not the same thing, but it's close enough. I'm gonna start with the salted caramel filling because it involves like 8 hours of cooling, so technically it takes the most time. For the salted caramel, put your sugar and your syrup into a medium saucepan and put them over a medium-high heat. Once the sugar starts melting, use a spatula to move it around and combine it with the syrup. Keep cooking and stirring it until it comes together and turns a dark amber color, unless you're using golden syrup, in which case you have no idea when it's done because it's already a dark amber color. It should take about 3 to 5 minutes. In the meantime, bloom your gelatin by putting it in cold water. The recipe says 1 silver gelatin sheet, but my gelatin sheets are smaller, so I added in an extra half sheet just in case. When the caramel is done, remove it from the heat. Now you want to slowly stream in the— No, slow. Now look what you've done. Why can't you just read the recipe? Just put it back over the heat. It'll probably melt. It'll be fine. Yeah. Okay, keep going. Once your gelatin is bloomed, which should take about 5 minutes, squeeze out the water and stir it into the caramel. When it's dissolved, put in the butter, the vanilla, and the salt. The recipe says to pass the caramel through a fine mesh sieve, but the idea of washing caramel out of a fine mesh sieve physically hurts me, so I didn't do this. Let it cool to room temperature and then keep it in the fridge for at least 8 hours before you use it. Tastes pretty good. So there are 2 main reasons this cake took so long. One of them being Animal Crossing just came out and it's really good and I couldn't put it down, and I'm so happy we finally have a new Animal Crossing game. And the second reason being an experience I had trying to grind popcorn. So I put my popcorn and I put it into a food processor because popcorn food made sense. And I kept pulsing it and moving it around, and I tried putting less in at a time and pulsing it again, and I tried putting it through the sieve and barely anything was coming out. So then I actually read the recipe and it said to use a blender. So I put it in a blender and it took like 3 seconds. And basically I wasted God knows how long trying to blend popcorn in a food processor. For the popcorn milk, steep 20 grams of popcorn in 330 ml of milk for 30 minutes. Blend them together, pass it through a sieve, and you've got popcorn milk. It's after midnight and I need sleep, so I'm gonna finish it tomorrow if I can. But yeah, the moral of today is just blend popcorn in a blender, don't use the food processor. It isn't quicker, it isn't more efficient, it takes way longer and it doesn't work. After the ordeal I had the night before, I woke up feeling surprisingly incredible on Sunday. I didn't have to blend anything, I had my breakfast, I left the butter out to room temperature, I felt powerful, and I knew at the end of the day I would probably have a cake. Okay, hello. It is Sunday, I have energy. I got all the blending stuff done last night, so that saves me time and emotional labor, so I think I can finish the cake today. It does have freezing time involved too, so I don't know if I'll get to try it today, but... For the popcorn cake, grease and line a 1/4 sheet pan. This is a 1/4 sheet pan, is 13 by 7 inches. I got mine online because I couldn't find one anywhere else. Basically how every layer cake in this book works is you make one big cake in one of these pans and then you cut out your layers with a cake ring. If you don't want to have to do that, you could probably just use 3 round cake tins and it'll probably turn out the same. In one bowl, combine your buttermilk with your oil. In another, combine your flour, your corn powder, your baking powder, and salt. Combine all of this with the ground up popcorn. What corn powder is it's basically freeze-dried sweet corn that I had to get online, couldn't find it anywhere. That's been blended and sieved so that you've got this floury consistency again. Combine the butter and the sugar in a stand mixer and beat it for 2 to 3 minutes until it's fluffy. Add the eggs one by one, beating them on medium-high for a minute after each one. After the last one, scrape down the bowl, then beat it on high for about 5 minutes. With the mixer on a medium speed, start to stream in the buttermilk and oil mixture slowly, which is a word I learned yesterday. This should take about 3 minutes. Scrape down the bowl and then increase the speed to medium-high for 2 to 3 minutes, until the mixture doubles in size and looks homogeneous. With the mixer on a low speed, slowly start to add the dry ingredients. Do this bit by bit until the batter just comes together. Once it's finished, pour the cake batter into your prepared pan and bake it for 30 to 35 minutes at 175 degrees Celsius. This is actually going really smoothly. It's a lot of steps, but they're all pretty doable. The only reason it is taking me as long as it is taking me to do this is because I don't have an attention span. But yeah, it's not that hard. So that's good. I'm optimistic. Anyway, next step. For the popcorn crumbs, combine the milk powder, which if you don't know what that is, it looks like this, flour, sugar, cornstarch, corn powder and salt in a bowl and whisk. Add the melted butter and mix it with a spatula until it forms little clusters. Spread them on a lined baking sheet and bake them for 20 minutes at 120 degrees Celsius. For the popcorn pudding, whisk 3 teaspoons of cornstarch into 50 ml of your popcorn milk to make a slurry. I haven't actually tried the popcorn milk on its own yet, so... See, it's good, but it makes me uncomfortable. When you're done working through your difficult emotions, mix the rest of the popcorn milk with 2 egg yolks. Then whisk in the sugar, the corn powder and the salt. Transfer them into a saucepan and add the butter. In the meantime, blue more gelatin. The recipe said 2 sheets, but as I mentioned before, mine are smaller, so I added in the other half of the one that I cut. Now turn the heat on low for your saucepan and start to melt the butter. So anytime that you're working with eggs and they're in direct contact with heat, you kind of run the risk of scrambling them. So A, you want to keep them moving as much as possible. B, make sure the heat is low like the recipe says. And C, I take it off the heat for a little bit every so often just so it works even slower and then put it back. Tempering eggs is also a thing where you heat the liquids first and then pour it into the eggs later and then put it back into saucepan, but I'll probably end up tempering eggs in another video sometime, or you can just Google it because that's a thing. Keep heating it until it reaches a boil and then put the slurry in. Bring it back up to a boil and then you can take it off the heat and put your gelatin in. Put the pudding into a container and let it cool down completely. Once your pudding is done, you can start assembling the cake. There is the corn fudge left to do as well, but you can't really do that until the cake is assembled. To assemble, use a 6-inch cake ring to cut 2 full rounds out of your sheet cake. Cut as much of a circle as you can out of the remaining scraps. Don't discard anything. Place the cake ring on top of some kind of pan. Also, when you're assembling the cake, line the cake ring with acetate because I forgot to do that at first and I did it afterwards. You'll see it magically appear. Assemble the bottom layer using the semicircles you cut and the scraps. Squeeze them together into a nice secure layer. Next, soak this layer in popcorn milk if you have any left. I didn't, so I used ordinary milk. Be generous with the amount of milk you use. Next, spread half of the popcorn pudding on top of this layer. If the pudding is stiff in the container, beat it with a spoon until it's loose enough to spread again. Top this with half of your crumbs. The next layer is the salted caramel. Now it's hard to spread this in the same way as the pudding without moving the crumbs around, so I spread it on the bottom of the next layer of cake. I also dropped a dollop in the center of the crumbs, so when I put the layer of cake on, it would squeeze it down and spread it around. Repeat this layering process of cake, soak, pudding, crumbs and caramel until you have all 3 layers of cake on. When I was making the caramel and I decided to use golden syrup instead of corn syrup, I didn't realize it would contribute color. Fun fact, golden syrup actually has a golden color to it. For the corn fudge, I'm going to use liquid glucose instead because it is colorless and I figure similar enough that it'll probably work. For the corn fudge, put the heavy cream, the glucose and the sugar into a microwave safe bowl. Heat it in the microwave for 45 seconds or until it's very hot. Add the white chocolate, the butter, the corn powder and the salt. Stir it until the white chocolate and butter have completely melted. If they're not melting and you have to heat it again, do so in 10-second increments. Once they're melted, spread the fudge on the top of the cake while it's still warm. Spread it around into a nice smooth layer and your cake is ready to go in the freezer. There's also a recipe for caramel corn to decorate the top with, but I didn't do that because
When Monday came, it was finally time to unmold the finished cake. I took off the cake ring and unwrapped the acetate like a child unwrapping a Christmas present. I did decide to decorate the top with a ring of plain popcorn, and with that, it was finally complete.
It's done. It looks perfect to me. I love that you can see every single layer. I probably could have been a bit more generous about the caramel, but it tasted pretty strong, so I didn't want to risk it. My favorite parts are where you can kind of see the caramel oozing out a little bit. Yeah, I'm very proud of this one. It looks really good. I'll cut it later, I will try it, I will update on how it tastes. Okay, I have my cake. I have tea in a mug that my mother got me for Christmas that says, "What would Meryl Streep do?" The answer is win an Academy Award, probably. I've got a bit of everything. It's very good. The caramel is pretty strong compared to everything else. I'm kind of glad I used less of it now. I think it might be down to me using golden syrup. I probably should have used glucose as well for that. I really love the taste of the corn powder. I've had it before in other things I made from the other milk bar cookbook. I wish I could describe how it tastes. I have no idea how to, and using like food description words make me feel really pretentious. So it doesn't taste like sweet corn. I love the crumbs. I would eat them from a bowl with a spoon like cereal. The pudding is very, very good. I ate a lot of the pudding before I even put it on the cake because it's just excellent. Because it's a popcorn cake, I feel like it's a good thing to have while watching a movie. So I'm gonna watch Kiki's Delivery Service and go to bed.
So that was my experience making popcorn cake. It was a lot of fun, it was worth the effort, it was really good. I'll probably do more stuff from this book at some point. My birthday is coming up at some point, so I might do the birthday cake when that comes around. Again, thank you for watching this thing. Hope it was good. If I can find a link to the recipe online, I'll put it in the description. If not, I'll write it out in grams. Or at the very least, I'll just write the ingredients because there's a lot of steps. If you want to know them, watch the video. There will be more. Not sure when, but it'll happen. Let me know what you'd like to see. Yada, yada, yada. And I will see you around, so bye.